So hello everyone, my name is Susan Soulsby. I'm one of the managers within the peer review team at EPSRC. Just introduce my colleague, Janet Edwards.
So I'm also a peer review manager in the team now.
And Tanya Cottrell, who's at the back, who's probably answered numerous queries from all of you over the years. So if you want to put a face to the well-known name, she's just over there. The first part of the session is really sort of exploring internal barriers and challenges that you face trying to corral applicants to respond to funding opportunities, and sort of the additional barriers that we sometimes put in place. So it might be an institutional quota, so only a certain number of applications per institution, or a certain sort of level of funding required by applicants, just to explore sort of the dynamics and changes in that sort of pre-submission space. And we're also looking a lot at equality and diversity in peer review at the moment. I'm running a project just to sort of see, are there any issues in sort of the processes that we have that would adversely affect equality and diversity, and where can we sort of make positive changes so that we sort of iron that out. I don't think anyone wants to see that. So we just sort of want to ask you a few questions about that as well. So each team will have a large performer in the moment, and there's two sets of questions. So you'll have an EPSRC colleague on each table as well to sort of help capture ideas, but feel free to write all over them, throw down your thoughts. And your first question is really about how you, it's an easy one, it's how do you go about promoting funding opportunities internally to applicants. So you're all about to get a performer. If I ask you to have a think about that.
Being more explicit in restrictions or requests that EPSRC are asking for.
If you've only got 6 weeks and you need to put an internal sift in that, and the call comes out, for example, over the Easter holidays.
We'll certainly take home the EPSRC actions. Thank you for all of those. I won't go through them all now, but I would encourage you to come and have a look and sort of maybe think about what actions you want to take away where you think sort of a change is required. So thank you very much. I'm now going to go into our second half of play, which is looking at sort of changes for happening internally, sort of within EPSRC, and sort of some of the pressures on us. So we have to have a change in sort of how we approach certain things, and then some of our top tips. And I shall hand over to Janet for our first bit of the presentation.
So first of all, I want to talk about the college. I don't know if you're all aware that we have a reviewer college at EPSRC, and because of the new delivery plan and the emphasis on equality and diversity, we're having a college refresh, and it's quite a major task this year. And so this is to talk about that, a couple of slides about that. So the peer review college, or peer review, is at the heart of EPSRC business. And we have a college of experts who provide independent peer review on our proposals. And they are also used to inform our decisions in other ways. The college is broadly designed to represent the community it serves. So we want to get people from every walk of life, scientifically speaking, with lots of diversity. It's populated. We need to have it populated with enough expertise to provide peer review and needs in every discipline. And that can be a struggle because some disciplines are quite small, but we need to encourage that. Balanced pool of members in terms of breadth of knowledge, gender, experience, ethnic origin, geographic location. So we are also after international people and business people, all to be on the college, and so that they can give their comments and offer their experience. So we've got a new delivery plan period, as I said, and we need to rebalance this pool of members. So we've got a call for expressions of interest to join a pool of experts, and we want you to encourage your academics to apply. The application is through a smart survey, so there's a link in the call to a smart survey. It's not very long, but does need some consideration. So it's not something you can do in 5 minutes, but it's also not that arduous either. And if you pass it on to the community, the opportunity to your projects and your business partners and people like that, we'd be really grateful, because it will encourage the diversity and experience on the college. Has anybody got any questions about that in particular? Oh, excellent. All right.
So this is going to continue to be a bit of a tag team between me and Janet, so bear with us. So our hints and tips. So getting it right first time. We've, as you know, we've had to really evaluate how we as a government organisation sort of works more efficiently, and really sort of looking at the level of resource that we have to do certain aspects of our role. And there's been a big shift for EPSRC to not check or to return as many proposals for amendment for minor issues. And so last year we returned over 1,000 proposals for amendment, and I think that's really just too high. This year, because we've stopped returning for as many problems with certain grants, we've halved that, but I think that's still too high personally. And I think you're going to see less proposals being returned in the future. So before we did it because certain things weren't justified fully, we're just not going to be returning proposals at the start of the process. If something's not justified fully and it's going to be funded, then we will return it at that sort of authorisation stage. So we are still being thorough, but we're being more thorough with the grants that are going to be funded, not with all of them that potentially won't be funded. So I think you agree that that's a sensible approach for us to, as an organisation, to go forward, but I wasn't sure if everyone was really aware in that change of approach that we're taking. I think there's a bit of a risk to some applicants in that if the paperwork's not quite right, then if it's a call, the deadlines are too short and they'll have to be rejected. So there'll be an increase in that. Also, if certain costs have been missed off a proposal, they won't be able to add them on if it's successful and it's at that end of that peer review stage. So before, we might have picked up on that and returned it and said, oh, did you forget to include this cost? And that just won't be picked up. So, and then that's an added pressure on the universities to find that cash to make sure that that project doesn't suffer, or certainly on the applicant to rejig things. So it does put more pressure on that initial pre-submission phase. And what we want to do is certainly for all application or for all calls and schemes to have a very sort of basic checklist that says these are the documents we want, this and nothing more. So we're a lot more upfront and very clear on what we're expecting to see. And in those discussions just now, there was more about sort of us being a lot clearer on the eligibility and sort of there. So I think we can incorporate that into sort of some sort of checklist as well, just to make it a very standard format so everyone's on the same page and knows what to expect. But it's something you should be aware of all the same. Project partners. I don't know how many times I've said this, and you've probably all said this to applicants a million times as well, but it's still happening, and we still see project partners outlined to receive funds to attend meetings or for travel. And if they're a project partner, they can't give to the grant and receive funds from the grant. So it still needs nipping in the bud. Also, we're seeing a lot of project partners' contributions, whether it's in kind or in cash, being equated to £1 or very minimal amounts. And it's just, all we ask is that a reasonable amount, a reasonable estimate of that effort is recorded on the grant. It's very important for us to sort of show where we're getting leverage from, where government funds are getting additional leverage. So that figure is very good for us. And also we seem to get a lot of universities listed as project partners, which isn't really, it's very rare that there's a legitimate case for that. So we just kind of want to stomp that out a bit. In terms of grants maintenance queries and activities raised, I'm sure some of you have put in a query or request and it seems to take forever to come back occasionally. And the main root cause of that is because there's a simple request, but then there's a few extra questions or a bit too much detail that means that it's not a simple yes or no from us and it needs to be referred to someone else. And that does just get it slowed up in the system. So as a hint and a tip to you, keep it simple, keep to the facts, and include that. We don't need all the supplementary information. If you are unsure, then maybe contact the peer review policy team. But that should only be in the really sort of exceptional, confusing cases for which there always are. And when you are raising the request, just encourage everyone to go through JES so it's recorded and audited. If it goes to a portfolio manager, then they should just refer you to put it back through JES. But just so you're all aware. In terms of extensions, this is quite a wordy slide. So again, there's a lot of sort of supplementary information in the comments bit for this, but you now have up to 12 months if there's a good reason. So maternity, paternity. We can't really go further than that unless it's really exceptional. So there's been a big disaster in the department and there was a fire or something along those lines. So it's really sort of exceptional if it's beyond that. And generally that's going to be on all grants. But we do always say, of course, just check the T's and C's of that application and certainly encourage the applicants to as well. And certainly funds, so directly incurred staff, if you have maternity or paternity leave an extension requested for covering staff, then you can reclaim those funds. It's not for investigators because they're employed by you, but if they're employed on the grant or a fellow, as they're sort of more employed by us on that, then it's you can actually recoup those funds for the additional costs incurred there. So transferring funds really is what it says on the tin. We still get a lot of queries of people trying to move between the different areas, but you cannot transfer between directly incurred and directly allocated. That's just the way certain funds are sort of protected in how they're calculated, and that's a restriction that we can't override. All these things are being sort of harmonised cross-council as well, so we're trying to have a lot less differences, a lot fewer differences between the councils, just to sort of help keep things a bit more standard and simplified.
Starting grants is another little area that causes quite a few questions. Recently, well, it depends on your interpretation of recent, I guess, we've now restricted that start time to 3 months, and this is to enable us to control our budgets much more precisely. And we've also changed what you can start a grant with. So it always used to be staff, it now isn't. A grant can start on expenditure of allocated costs, so that for investigators' time, or directly incurred equipment. So what we're saying here is be realistic about your start date, or encourage your PIs to be realistic about the start date. And it does need to start in 3 months. And now we are saying that delays in appointing staff isn't generally a sufficient reason to delay requesting a delay in start date, or a slip start date as we used to call it, because of this need to keep to the budget time. But you can, if there has been a delay in appointing staff, of course you can have an extension within the grant duration to account for that. All right. So, but generally it's towards the end of a grant when you know that you actually do need that time to complete the project. So no expenditure can occur after the end date of the grant. So we often do get asked, can I buy the ticket for that conference today for a conference that's 2 months after the end date of the grant? And the answer is categorically no. This cannot be done. The conference that you're paying for, or anything that you're paying for, must be inside the dates of the grant. But if the conference is soon after the end date and it's key, absolutely key to the project, then talk to us. That's a different issue, because we can extend for those reasons, because it's still meeting the objectives of the grant. But a spurious conference that may have some attachment to the project, yeah, we're going to say no. So I think we kind of covered all the usual questions that we get time and time again through our policy box or from grants from SBS. But there's lots of places you can get the answer. So we've made up this slide. So, and the key one is check the offer letter. The terms and conditions really do cover everything we say. But I guess some of it might be a bit jargony, but it really is there. You can check the funding area that we have on our website. We don't have a funding guide anymore, or a downloadable funding guide, because it comes out of date too quick. But if you look on our funding area, everything is updated all the time. If you still can't find the answer, well, then you can talk to the portfolio managers, the peer review team, and you can get which portfolio manager you need to talk to from our website, as usual. And then there's the building leaders team as well, if you're talking about fellowships and studentship information and things like that.
I'm going to be here for the rest of the day, so if you have any questions, please come find me. And Janet and Tanya are here, I think,
Until after lunch.
Yes. Yeah. So please come find us. But we've got our contact details up there for you to. So we're always there for you. But yeah, basically, just in summary, top tips: no expenditure after the end of the grant. If you do need a small extension because there's a key big event, then you can ask for an extension if there's a good reason for it. Requests to come through Jez, but keep them simple. Don't confuse things. Check the call document. We're going to try and improve our documentation so it's very clear what we're expecting to see. And just to sort of reiterate the getting it right first time, we're not returning as many proposals, and just for you to think through the sort of implications and pass that on to applicants as well. Thank you.